All right, hi there. It is morning on September 4th, and I wanted to record a little intro video. A few days ago on September 1st, I started a new crash diet. I've been trying to, I've got a little thicker in the middle here than I want to be. Weighed in at 215.8 pounds the other day, and for the last few months, I've been trying to lose a few pounds, and just with small changes, but as I've gotten older, it's not making a difference. So what I decided to do was to do a little experiment and spend 30 days measuring literally everything that goes into my body. So every calorie, every gram of fat, every gram of sugar, every gram of protein, fiber, and get really meticulous about it. And since I didn't have a baseline, like I know my metabolism is a little slower than kind of the average person. I know that about myself, but I didn't have a baseline on like how many calories does my body need to just stay steady versus how many calories would be weight loss. I decided to go for a really aggressive, like very small diet, calorie diet of, I think my target's somewhere around 900 calories a day, 900 to 950, something like that. So really low, should be more than enough to lose weight, and then just every day kind of monitor, see how I'm feeling, and see if it feels like that's not enough, or I need to adjust one way or another. So yeah, I'm on day 4 now. I've been doing this for 3 days. I'm gonna log literally everything that I put in my body, all the activity I do. I'm not upping a lot of activity for this. I'm mostly just focusing on diet this month, in the month of September. See how far I can get on that, keep my activity level the same with the cardio or strength training that I've been doing, and then kind of assess from there and decide where I want to go next. But wanted to get this intro video recorded. I've actually already, in 3 days, I weighed in at 210.6, I'll have it in the log, but it's basically 5.5 pounds lighter this morning than I was on September 1st. So after 3 days, 5.5 pounds. I think most of that is probably just like, stuff getting out of my system from when I was eating more. But we're off to a good start. And so I wanted to record the intro video on the hope and chance that maybe, by the end of this month, there'll be, some visual difference as well. So, all right, here we go. So we've done the first week of my weight loss program, and I want to report back on where I'm at so far. I've also been doing a lot of reading, and very low calorie diets are dangerous, something you need to be very careful with. And so I've been reading articles. I'm not an expert, not a nutritionist, not a doctor, and so please take everything I'm doing with a grain of salt, and don't try it for yourself without talking to your professionals and getting all the advice that you need to get and doing the reading. I will post the links of the things that I've been reading, but there's definitely things to be concerned about, and so yeah, we want to look out for that. Let me just start. Let's dive in and take a look at the numbers. Okay, so I have been targeting 900 calories a day. So the way the spreadsheet works is at the top, I've got your daily recommended diet, for a man of my age, maybe about 2,500 calories. Tried to get, kind of the makeup of that across protein, fiber, carbs, fat, and sugar. That's what I'm tracking kind of closely right now. Got these from various websites. I don't know if they're 100% accurate. If you have better data, let me know. And then, kind of for my height, 185 pounds is sort of the mid zone of the ideal target weight, BMI, whatever. And so the other thing I'm looking at is kind of this waist to height ratio, which a lot of people say is a really better indicator of health than weight is. And what that basically says is, take your weight in inches divided by your waistline in inches, and you want that to be 0.5 or lower. If it's above 0.5, maybe there's some health risks. So that's how this works. I took a ratio of kind of these different factors against the total number of calories and just scaled it down. And then for protein and fiber, which I think are kind of the healthier, more important things for me to be maintaining for muscle mass and my digestive tract and everything, I put a floor of 60% in for those. So if 19 is too low, let's do 33. I'm just kind of making this up again, not my area of expertise. And then, yeah, so I've, how have I done in the first week? Well, 880 on average, so pretty close to my 900 target. Lost a lot more weight than I expected. So my goal for the whole month was 209. I weighed in at 209.1 after a week. So basically done with the entire goal in 1 week. Lost 7.6 pounds, which is what kind of got me like, okay, well, I wasn't sure if this would work at all. I would see how well it's going to work. How quickly am I going to lose? I was thinking maybe I'd lose 2 pounds a week or something. And so that really got my attention and got me reading about sort of all this stuff and how to do it safely. So it clearly feels good to have the assurance that I can control. Like I do have the ability, if I'm monitoring everything, I have the ability to, influence the outcome and reduce weight over time, which feels great. But now I'm sort of thinking about, okay, well, what are the risks? And studies show that these rapid kind of crash diets are not good for people. Like they often gain the weight back. It can mess with your hormone levels and send different signals about hunger from your brain, and it can lead to muscle loss, increase your risk of gallstones. Even gallstones are typically caused by carrying excess weight around your stomach, abdominal area. But losing weight too fast can cause them too, because I guess it floods your system with cholesterol or something, or even hair loss, right? So there's like a lot of things to watch out for. Typically they define a very low calorie diet as less than 800 a day, and I'm kind of at this 880, so I'm kind of really borderline, but probably more that than anything else. And so, I might want to start upping the calories here, pretty soon. Guidance is that it's sort of okay if it's, 1 to 2 weeks, but longer than that, probably not so much. And not more than 25% of your body weight. Even if I went all the way down to 185 pounds from 215.8, that would be like 14% of my body weight. So I think I'm kind of right on the borderline of like doing this in a dangerous way. And so I'm only a weekend. I can kind of adjust, based on what we're seeing. Like I said, I might start upping the calories a little bit from here. I think the 2-week mark really needs to be a major point of inflection for me, though, when I get to September 14th and see whether the results, what was the first week look like, what's the second week look like, how do I want to proceed to make sure I'm being healthy and careful. So I mean, in terms of like how I'm feeling, I feel enthusiastic that I'm able to control this, and I'm starting to make some progress, which feels good. Clothes are fitting better; those things feel good. Also feeling cautious, like I want to make sure I do this well and carefully. Other side effects, like there was a day or so there where I had some like aching, like kind of soreness in my legs, which felt like I had a leg day workout the day before, but I hadn't. So I didn't know what to make of that. I have been doing my Peloton, so maybe it was related to that, and going on walks and stuff. So it could just be normal stuff. Mood has been good. I had maybe one day where I was just kind of feeling down or like slow, that sort of thing, but I don't know that was necessarily related. But yeah, so far so good. So we'll check in at the end of next week and see where things are at. All right, I've reached the end of week 3 of my September diet, crash diet, intense diet, whatever you want to call it. And I'm ready to provide a little update. I was originally planning on doing an update each week, but after the end of last week, week 2, it didn't feel like there was quite enough takeaways, insights to make it worth it. So I decided to do one at week 3, and then we'll do one at the very end. So let's dive into that. Back in the spreadsheet here, I've done a few things. So I've divided up kind of the month so far by weeks 1, 2, and 3, so I can do a little analysis. Where I left off last time, I was getting really nervous about some of the very low calorie diet readings, and just trying to be careful and making sure that I wasn't doing more harm than good. And so going into the second week, as I was learning more about that, I kind of intentionally padded up my calorie targets just a little bit. You can see that during week 1, I was averaging 880 calories a day. And then in week 2, I kind of bumped that up almost 10%, to 968 on average. And that was an intentional move, just to, as I was learning more, thinking about how I was feeling. I had felt a little tired. I had some achiness in the first week. I just wanted to make sure that my body was getting enough of what it needed. It really didn't seem to be an issue at all. I did notice, during the first week I lost 7 pounds, so a pound a day. During the second week I lost 2 pounds. My conclusion here is that a week is just far too short a period of time to draw any major conclusion from that. I don't really think this is this 5 pound difference is related to the small calorie change that I made. In retrospect, especially looking after week 3, and so yeah, I continue to read, and what I sort of took away from it is that kind of short-term VLCDs or very low-calorie diets can be okay. They're mostly okay if you're getting your nutrients and making sure that your body's getting kind of enough of the fiber that it needs and the vitamins that it needs, those sort of things. And I've been eating a lot of vegetables. And sort of like the guidance is more than 12 weeks is an absolute no-no. So I'm thinking in terms of like 4 weeks. And so that gave me the confidence that I don't think I'm doing anything too irresponsible here. So going into week 3, I decided to kind of pull those calories back a bit. I didn't go all the way down, to where I was in week 1, but went from 968 to 929, and lost 5 pounds in week 3. So what have we learned here kind of overall? Well, one, I started out at a weight of, where was that, 215.8. And my goal was, I hadn't been able to change anything for quite some time in terms of, my diet wasn't changing my weight, it wasn't getting me where I wanted to be. So really a pretty modest goal. I was like, I'm gonna, start at the minimal and I'll build up. And if I could just get onto a program that's gonna get me down to 209 by the end of September, I'll be really happy. And so that was kind of a very modest goal that I had. I think, even still, losing 6 pounds or more in a month is pretty quick. Obviously, I've kind of shattered that original goal already. My last weigh-in, actually this morning, this is the 22nd, was back to 203.1. So I'm kind of well beyond that first goal. So now I think, got another week and some change here to go in September. I think I'm looking at it as like, is it possible that I could go from nearly 216 to sub 200? Could I see like a 199.9 on this scale before the end of a single month? That would be just shocking to me. But it seems like it's possible with 7 pounds lost in the first week, 2 in the second week, 5 in the third week. If I could just lose 3.2 pounds from where I weighed in this morning in the next 10 days, I'd be there. So I think that's kind of what I'm shooting for, but in my mind, I've already won. I'm already like, I've far exceeded kind of my goal and my expectation. I'm happy with where I'm at, and I feel like I'm finally in control, and I have kind of the knobs and dials that I need to kind of, take me to where I want to be. And now I'm starting to think ahead to October that I think it's going to be strength training, starting to layer more strength training in, add some calories back into the diet, start working on muscle tone, those sort of things. So that's kind of where my head is at. But maybe we'll break 200 in a month, which would be absolutely amazing. I'm also paying kind of close attention to this sort of waist to height ratio. That's the measure of your waist, your height divided by the measure of your waist. They want you to be 0.5 to be super healthy. I've gotten down from 0.575 to 0.551. So still ways to go there to kind of get to what would be like ideal or healthiest sort of body composition, but that's all fine. This is working. I'm making progress. I feel in control. That feels amazing. I'm actually having a lot of fun with it. I guess I'm lucky. My body, I'm not going to eat anything today until I have an apple, probably around 1:30 or so. It's 10 a.m. in the morning now. I feel fine. No, I don't care. So I guess I feel lucky that I can go long periods of time, and intermittent fasting just really works for me in a way that doesn't seem to hold me back a whole lot. Yeah, so then the only other thing I kind of wanted to share on this video is I've always been curious about, they tell you 2,500 calories is a normal diet or whatever per day. I'm like, is that right? Too much? Will I gain weight if I eat that much? So I've always been curious about like how many calories does my body actually burn on a daily basis? Not some formula out there, but my body, what does my body typically do? And so I actually had all the information. I know how much I've lost, I know how much I've eaten, down to the calorie, down to the gram. And so I just made this quick little chart here that I'm having a lot of fun with, that shows me how many pounds I've lost, you know, so if we go back, remember that's 12.7 here. If I wanted to go all the way down to like the absolute ideal body weight, which may or may not be right for me, that'd be another 18 pounds. So I'd have a lot more to lose, but I've lost 12.7. And you know, from what I've read, the typical, you know, guidance is that a calorie of fat equates to about 3,500 calories of like food or, you know, consumable. So, you know, 12.7 times 3,500 calories, that means that I have burned 44,450 calories off my body in the last 21 days. So it's been 21 days of September. So I sort of know the total number of calories I've burned in fat. I definitely know the total number of calories I've consumed because I've been tracking literally everything. So if I just add those together, I get 63,888. Okay, well, my body has, you know, processed 63,888 calories in 21 days. Divided by 21, that means that my body is burning, using, consuming, processing 3,042 calories a day, which I think is just so cool to know. It's just incredible to have a number, and that may change, you know, as your metabolism changes. You know, the more you diet, the slower your metabolism, the less calories you burn per day. I've been told the more you exercise, cardio you do, the kind of higher your metabolism. And so that's a target that's going to be a moving target. But that's a real number. Like, that's a real number for this month, the last 21 days. That is indisputable. That is what my body has done, because you can see it's come off, and I've tracked everything I've eaten, and wow, it just feels so cool to know 3,042 calories a day. And it also feels good to know that, like, when I get to the end of this and I'm where I want to be, yeah, I can have a dessert every now and then. I can have a glass of wine. It's gonna be okay as long as I stay kind of within that budget. So super awesome. I'm excited to be where this has gone far better than I really would have expected, and feels really great. So one more week and change to go, and then we'll see where we're at, and make some new goals going forward. But yeah, future's looking bright. All right, I am finally recording an end to this video. So I set out with a goal of doing a fairly aggressive, maybe extreme diet through September this year. And it is now nearly the end of October. Actually, this week is Halloween. And so life got busy, and I've just kind of fallen behind. But I have kept up with tracking all of my calories and everything through October. You know, I haven't been quite as extreme, but let's take a look at that now, right? So this is the full month of September now, with all the data loaded in, and I've got it broken up kind of week by week, and then a partial week here at the end. And so we can see that, you know, I had a target of restricting my diet to around 900 calories a day. My average was 914, so I just about nailed that. Some days the red days were a little higher, some days the green days were a little lower, but for the most part, I stayed right in the zone of where I wanted to be, at about that average of 900 a day. I did find it hard to kind of get the amount of protein that you really need, and so by the end of the month, that was the thing that I felt like was probably the area of most concern, was making sure that I was getting my protein numbers that I needed. Also was not able to get the fiber where I wanted it to be. That was the hardest. I think I only had one day where I actually went above the 18 grams of fiber. You know, but for the most part, this worked out pretty well, and I favored protein and fiber over carbs, fat, and sugar, of course, with the goal of losing weight. So we started out at 215.8 pounds and ended the month just under 200 pounds, so 199.1, which was far better than I had hoped for or ever dreamed of. You know, I kind of went into it thinking if I could get down to 209 by the end of the month, I'd call that a great success. And so that was a real surprise to me. And I will admit, that's still a good 15 pounds off my ideal target of 185. And so going into October, I was like, I should just keep going with this. It's going so well. But then I sort of remembered that, long-term, heavily restricted diets can lead to, all kinds of problems. And after about 4 weeks, I felt like it was time to start a soft landing. And so we'll look at that in October. But yeah, waistline went from 42 inches to under 40 inches, getting closer to that, height divided by waistline being 0.5, which is kind of the healthy target that I want you to be at. So in all, this worked out really well for me. And so going into October, I decided I would start, upping the calories from that average of 900 a day. I didn't want to go all the way back to 2,500 or something crazy like that, but I just added 200, as my target. And so looking at October, my target was to kind of start taking the calorie intake up to 1,100 on average, and then ultimately beyond that. So there's a lot of red down here, but this is kind of part of the plan. The soft landing is gradually kind of increase the calorie average per day without seeing weight gain is kind of my goal. It's a little easier to get better protein numbers with the higher calorie intake, of course. One of the things that's really interesting is like sort of almost right away, even though I was still having pretty low calorie days, my weight loss in October basically flatlined and plateaued. And so I think this is kind of my body adjusting and metabolism slowing down and whatnot. So, I'm not alarmed by that. I think that's fine. It'll take a little longer to kind of get down to the final number, but that is probably the healthy way to do it. So, starting around 200, weighed in this morning at 197.9, which is barely less, maybe less than 3 pounds, certainly less. Dubbing in here, I forgot to include some analysis on the calorie intake per day. And so I want to share that with you now. If we take a look at this, remember I made this little tab here that just adds up sort of the pounds lost and assumes that each pound is about 3,500 calories, converts that into weight loss in calories, and then just adds up all the calories consumed to sort of get an average of what my body is processing calorie wise per day. And this I think is actually fascinating. So I wanted to add this in. If we look at October's numbers, calorie consumed has gone up. That was always the plan, kind of the soft landing, add calories gradually back into the diet. The amount of pounds lost, pretty minimal, as we talked about. When you do the math, that takes me from like my body was processing an average of 2,800 calories a day last month to less than 1,500 this month. And so I don't know what that means. Like, part of it is the metabolism slowing down, perhaps, from kind of what I've been doing to the body. I think another part of it might be it just requires less calories to move myself around. I weigh less, and so my body's doing less work, just living my life and going on my walks and things that I'm doing. But this feels lower than it ought to be. So this is something I'm going to be watching. I'm going to keep measuring everything and try to get a really good solid baseline of like, once I arrive at sort of like steady state, this is how I'm eating and just maintaining a healthy weight. What does my daily calorie consumption and processing look like? Does that level out at 1,800 or 2,200, or where do I maintain? And that'll help me sort of set what my budget is per day as well. But I thought this was really interesting because it's nearly half in October from what it was in September, and that can't be quite right. It probably ought to kind of swing back up a little bit, and we'll see where it lands. But pretty dramatic change there, so I thought I'd add that. So yeah, that's the update. Really pleased with how this went. Like, it blew my mind. I mean, going into it, I felt like I had sort of lost my ability to do the things that I did when I was younger, to just control waistline, and started feeling like powerless. Like maybe I'm just getting older and I can't do this stuff anymore. And this gave me a whole new kind of lease on renewed, feeling of control. Like, okay, if I'm serious about it and I get scientific and I measure the things, I can absolutely affect, how my body feels and where I'm at. And to me, that's the big win. I mean, it feels great to know that, I've got the ability to be what I want to be and become what I want to become. So yeah, I mean, if you're struggling, you're frustrated with this kind of stuff, just you put some science into it, put some thought into it, and I would say just record your numbers. That's the biggest thing. Is just write it down and make a spreadsheet. It doesn't have to be as elaborate as this, but definitely worked for me. So would recommend. 10 out of 10. Thanks.